anybody who's corporatist does not give a crap about the Constitution and does not give a crap about our civil liberties. That's not their priority. Their priority is whoever their donor is or whatever master they're serving. Those of us who care about the Constitution and our civil liberties recognize that this is extremely scary. First of all, First Amendment rights apply to everybody who's standing here. Everybody on Turtle Island gets First Amendment rights. That's just how it works. You don't have to be a citizen. It doesn't matter why you're here. You get them because you just get them because you exist. That's why. That's right. And really, the only thing that we're in regular people, and by regular people, I mean just pedestrians talking about the Constitution, that you need to really understand is the only thing that you need to worry about as citizen is in terms of if they can vote. That's it. Just work. You know what I'm saying? Like, seriously, everything else applies to everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I can't tell you how many knuckleheads out there will challenge you on that. The First Amendment is just for American citizens. They have no idea. I mean, this is, I guess the public schools have failed. I mean, the aspirational nature of the founding of this country, the whole purpose, and Madison wrote about it extensively. The whole purpose is that we aspire to demonstrate that our creator, whoever you may believe that to be, has endowed us with certain rights, and they can't be given or taken by the government. And so many people just don't get it. And it's, I don't know. I mean, I should just beat my head against the wall because I would have more success than arguing with people on X about this, especially right-wingers.
Yeah, well, they don't understand it. They don't get it because they don't see that it'll happen to them. I actually want to put out like public safety messages to students specifically on campuses, whether graduate students, any students. You guys walk in groups, stay in big groups with each other. Don't allow people that aren't citizens to be, first of all, not that it should matter, but they're starting with the lowest hanging fruit. So let's, be protective of each other and just, we need a buddy system.
What are they going to do? I mean, they are massive rallies led by liberal Jewish students on these campuses. How can they continue to ignore this? And at what point are they going to strike? And what's it going to look like,
It's coming down to a battle between what everybody wants and what the big Israeli Zionist donors and AIPAC have paid for. So they're caught because you can see that the public sentiment is growing increasingly more and more anti-Israel. That's just, every poll showed that, like, more and more we're seeing Americans say, maybe we need to cut ties. Maybe they've gone a little too far. So it's clear that that's what the public sentiment is. However, the donor class is a whole other thing. So, when you've got Miriam Adelson essentially bought the West Bank, and they just seem to be going on with this greater Israel project, but people who really know, that the people that I listen to that are ex-military, State Department, that this is what they talk about, we're not getting anywhere near the proper information as to what kind of horrid shape Israel is actually in, economically, militarily, and otherwise. Their population is leaving, their economy is in the toilet. They're incapable of doing what we're all scared they're going to do. They're kind of not able to do what they want to do. So, it's a mess, but it will eventually undo. Like, people aren't going to continue to this is not going to continue to go on like this.
Yeah, and I almost feel like, maybe I'm wrong, but I almost feel like we're sort of in the last days of this, and that's why they're getting so desperate. That's why they're getting so aggressive toward people. But, the sting isn't there, unless, of course, you're a foreign student. The sting isn't there of calling these things out. I mean, I remember when Pat Buchanan, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, talked about Congress as Israeli-occupied territory, and it was genuinely shocking. And people thought this would end his career. And now we can openly say it. You can have people like Thomas Massey talk about it openly, but Tucker Carlson, two of the most popular people. Tucker Carlson, one of the most popular media people. You have people like Candace Owens talk about it, and she's extremely popular. Not that I agree with how things are always framed, but nevertheless, it can be talked about now openly. You just can't put the genie back in. You can try to ban TikTok, but you can't put the genie back in. And in fact, as you point out, Jen, Israel's in terrible shape. things are getting worse. Public opinion against Israel worldwide is extremely negative. There's a Gallup poll that came out in February saying I don't have the number in front of me, but the American attitude toward our relationship with Israel is the most negative it has ever been in the 20 years of that polling. This is going to continue, and it's not going to get better. And, I would say people who are concerned for the future of Israel, the U.S. government's not doing them any favors, just like it didn't do Zelensky any favors by saying, okay, come on, you guys, go fight. Keep going. Keep at it. Take down Russia. Come on. What's wrong with you guys?
We're like cockfighters. We have cockfighting rings, and we just sacrifice all these, and they are kind of like cocks. But so, I mean, that's what we're doing.
Yeah. Good use of language there, Jen. I have to say, very well played. But what I will say, which I think is important, when you think about why the Zionist state is going to fall, it's because they always say that the deadliest sin is pride. Pride is greatest just before the fall. And here is an example of just that. The idea, according to Michael Gove, and you only have to take one look at the guy to know that he looks exactly as you would expect him to look. IDF should be nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. When you start putting out publications like that, you can't accelerate Israel's demise any faster.
Again, I'm going to have to say it again. Can we have some sympathy for The Onion? What are they to do? That is the most ridiculous headline I have ever seen. That has to be like The Onion. That's absurd.
And then the sub-headline is, thank God Israel had the courage to sometimes ignore its most powerful ally. And on top of everything else, I mean, you can just tell when people, I have always been hypercritical of the left when it comes to their use of language, especially when they label people as racists and bigots and sexist and all those things that they will throw at the drop of a hat. But I will tell you, if there is one classification of political ideology where you could call them racist, bigoted, xenophobes of the highest order, it's people that identify with the Zionist movement.
They're Nazis. They're Nazis.
And the disregard for human life is so insane. They do not hide their supremacist views that, for every one Israeli captured person, we must kill 1,000 Palestinians. It's something along those lines in terms of calculation. And so for a person like Michael Gove to put out an article like this in the JC is to suggest that, is he doing it tongue-in-cheek? Is he even attempting to be satirical? No, this is what they believe. They really do believe this, that the IDF is a benevolent military force and that everything they do is correct, even though I don't have the tweet. But I will tell you that I saw this information that was just reported recently. For those of you in the audience who may not know this, do you know how many hospitals are in Gaza?
Now?
36. You know how many there are now? None.
Yeah.
I mean, that is crimes against humanity. Period.
I mean, just imagine if Belarus was doing this, or if any other country in the world was doing it, it would be at the top of the headlines everywhere. And in fact, the only place you actually read about some of these things is Haaretz in Israel itself. There was a couple of great headlines that I saw today, and someone even reposted it on X saying, can you imagine even one mainstream newspaper in the United States coming up with a headline like this? It's just completely ignored. And it's unbelievable to see this happening in real time. And I mean, I have to say, it's very depressing. Very depressing.
Do you believe that most of the foreign policy decision-making, particularly when it comes to it's not even a conflict, we can't call it a conflict, but the attacks that we have perpetuated on Yemen, as well as Syria, and everything looks like an encircling of Iran, which we know for the longest time that General Clark had spoken about. He actually was kind enough to grace us with his presence on our channel, and he brought that up about how Iran has always been the end game since 1979. And you think about the prospect of World War III, and everyone always thinks, nah, it's not going to happen. We're too advanced of a species. And I'm thinking, no, we're not. We're still primitive in many ways. And so do you in any way trust Trump to see us through this? Or do you think he's becoming too engulfed with the Israel machine as it spirals in many ways?
Yeah, I think, that's the path of least resistance for him, and it's been consistent in that way. But I almost think, I always get the feel these past few, couple of weeks, it's just kind of gone off the rails. He was, remember, if I can use a slightly bad word, over the weekend, he's pissed off. I'm pissed off at Putin because he challenged the legitimacy of Zelensky. Dude, like 3 weeks ago, you said Zelensky is an unelected dictator. He happened to be playing golf with the president of Finland. He comes back in, I guess he got an earful from this guy, picks up the phone, apparently, calls NBC News and talks about how mad he is at Russia. It's all their fault for not making a deal when, in fact, they said, okay, we want to do 30 days without hitting infrastructure. Okay, sounds good. The next day, their infrastructure gets hit. We want to do a Black Sea thing. Okay, a couple of things that we want, but we're happy to do it. Boom. It doesn't go through because Zelensky says no. So I just don't know what's going on with Trump. He's surrounded by bad people. He's saying the craziest things. Greenland. There was a Fox News poll.
Listen, you're asking, I have to channel him. You made a mistake, Daniel, and I can't accept that on my channel. Red, white, and blue land. Let's start saying it just like the Gulf of America. It's like a clown show. It sucks. But
70% of the people in this Fox News poll that came out a couple of days ago, I think a week or so ago, 70% say they think it's a cockamamie idea. They're against it. This is an unpopular idea, but it got trotted out when Signalgate broke. He didn't want to have to deal with this issue. And even though the media was coddling him and treating it as if the leak was the real issue rather than bombing the crap out of Yemen for no reason at all, and even admitting there's no reason to do it, I don't know, send a message. Blame it on Biden. Who cares? Even though the media handed him that, he still had to do this. And I'm just convinced that's why this whole Greenland nonsense has come back up. It's insane. And how embarrassing for J.D. Vance. He goes over there and nobody will meet with him. They won't let him off the military base. Nobody wants to talk to him. They treat him like he's, a retarded child or something. They don't.
It was glorious.
Yeah.
It was so glorious. It's so funny.
And because he's a sharp knife. Like people really do underestimate Vance. But that's the problem with, what is often regarded as just, a stand-in position. It's not real. It doesn't provide any real benefit other than maybe some name ID to handle it. But the vice president very often gets stuck with these odd jobs. And in many ways, it's supposed to make the president look better, even unfortunately, sometimes at the expense of you looking really dumb. And in this case, I think they all look dumb. I don't understand this. I don't know what they think they're going to get. Putin has made it very clear that, going after Greenland is kind of a non-starter. And I think that's in a lot of ways why, Trump is like trying to wax poetic. But all I'm thinking is it'd be a lot for us to kind of show our strength if we didn't have to deal with the fact that BRICS is a real thing and that there are nations around the globe, in particular led by China and Russia, that have formed a unification in many ways because our empire is just basically pushed itself past the point of no return in many ways. And even though the signs are all there that we need to pull it back, they don't want to pull it back. And that's what frustrates me, as I'm sure it frustrates you, frustrates Jen, frustrates everybody.